It is Monday, October 19th, 2020. We are now into, I think it's either the fourth or fifth year of 2020. That's what it feels like. We've been in 2020 forever. And I know I'm looking forward to 2021, and hopefully things are a lot better when we get there. Hopefully. I see Jeff Reynolds has been waiting around for a while. I'm glad he's here. David and Cheryl, but it's only Cheryl tonight checking in. Yep. Terry Keithley checking in. Crash Rider, cheers from Southern Indiana. Am So checking in from Northern California. I'm hoping you're not. Well, I don't know what the status is on the fires out there right now, but hopefully you're not involved with any of that. Nandu is here. Glad you're here. Jerry's Garage, the Money Pit. Good evening, all from Middle Tennessee. Bob Shoemaker is checking in from Oklahoma. David and Cheryl are here from Missouri, by the way. Phil Manaseri. Hi, everyone. Phil from New York. 68 Stang. That's Reese checking in. And Dave Conville is checking in as well. And I have to give a shout out to Dave because he had a post on Instagram that I thought was pretty cool. He took an old, I guess it would be a coffee table of sorts, and modified it so he could put in an N scale train. Now, N scale, I don't know what that translates to as far as a ratio, but N scale trains are like little, maybe about the size of a Hot Wheels car. So anyway, it was pretty cool. Had a glass top on it, had an exposed area on the sides where you could look all the way around it, and then underneath it had doors for a cabinet or whatever. But he had that little train in there with a complete diorama setup, and I just thought that was pretty cool. I was just thinking my grandson would be all over that, watching that little train, run around inside that thing. So anyway, shout out to Dave for your train set. That was pretty cool. Let's see. Jeff says 0 to 25 in just 2 minutes. Yeah. Well, people are checking in. That's good. That is a good thing. I guess you've seen, or probably maybe have seen, I don't know, I posted a video today. Again, trying to make them shorter in effect. Although this was pretty easy to make short because I did a brake job yesterday on that Mitsubishi Raider. And, pretty straightforward as far as the process. The only difficulty that I had with it was getting the rotors actually off of the hubs, because I think the truck was from, what they tell me, Iowa or Idaho, something like that, something with an I, and it had rust, in various locations, popping through as they normally do. But a lot of times, whenever the rotors are exposed to salt, they can rust hard to the hub, and so that was a bit of a challenge. In fact, I think it was harder to get the wheels off this vehicle because it had fused together, the aluminum and the steel. And man, that I was now on that first video, that's why I did the ball joints on that one, and I had to use basically a 5-pound sledgehammer and smack the tires repeatedly, rotate it, hit it, until finally they pop loose. And man, anyway, I got that off. And then the second video doing changing the rotors and pads. And like I said, they're friends of mine, and they'd asked if they could do the brake job themselves because they had done brakes before. And I said, I don't think you want to attempt this, because I knew when I did the ball joints that rotor was not moving. There was no way it was coming off without brute force. So, and I didn't show hitting it with a hammer because it would just be loud and obnoxious. So I just kind of showed the process of what I did to knock it off there. I tried the mallet first, Okay. Yeah, I tried using the dead blow mallet first, and that didn't do it. So then I had to break out the big ball peen hammer that I've had that ball peen hammer, I think, gosh, I was probably 16 when I got that hammer. I know it was I think it was several. Um, my dad had tools, at the junkyard, and I do remember these. There was 2 or 3 of these hammers, and I managed to snag one of them, and I've had it all this time, used it for years and years and years, and I'm amazed I haven't destroyed it yet. But I still have that hammer. Jerry says he saw the video. Good job. Thank you, Jerry. Actually, we have the same rust issues here in Tennessee. I'm sure you do. You got snow up there. We don't have that problem so much in Georgia. Thank you, David. No, thank you, Cheryl. Since it's Cheryl, I know that. Yeah, Jeff. I try not to beat up my hands anymore if I can get away with it. I had, I mentioned it before. I had carpal tunnel in both hands from years of abuse and hitting them, and it's actually runs in my family. So I've learned the hard way that you can't use your hands as mallets. It doesn't work. Dave, thanks, Barry. The coffee table train set was actually a birthday gift for Colleen. She's in the trains and cars. Well, my wife's having a birthday next year. You can make one for her. No. Dave and Cheryl, or I'm sorry, I know it's Cheryl. I'm just going to keep saying because it says David and Cheryl. We missed Thursday live stream, was on a road trip for our new project. That's right. Cheryl sent me a picture earlier today of, I believe it, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a 69 Thunderbird. And it has suicide doors, which tells me it's a 4-door. And I think she said it had a 429 in it. So that's going to be that's going to be a new project they're going to work on. So glad to hear that. Always, wait a minute. Always nice to hear of new projects. And Dave, I'll get right on it. Yeah, I'm sure you will. I'll tell you, that was impressive, though. I don't know how much background you have making like the diorama stuff, but I mean, it looked really good. And I wouldn't just say that. And we have BK Woods checking in. I'm going to show. In fact, I'll show you that hammer I was talking about. I don't know what this thing weighs. It's over a pound, but if you look at it, you can maybe see areas where parts of the hammer have come undone. But this hammer, I mean, fiberglass handle with some black tape around it, and it's had a few miss shots where it's hit the handle. But I mean, I've been swinging this hammer probably since I was 16, maybe even 15. So what is that? It's a long time. Do the math. Over 30 years. 30. What's the math here? 30. How old am I? 35 or so years. It's been a long time, but yeah, I don't know what's going to happen if I ever break this thing. But it's one of those tools, And the thing is, that is one of the few tools I have from when I was a teenager, because I did have a big hip roof style toolbox, with the sides that fold out. I mean, full of tools. I had that when I was a teenager. I had it when I was in the Army, and I got out of the Army, came home from leaving the Army, and I was using it up at the junkyard, and somebody, one of my brother's former friends, broke into our garage, stole a bunch of stuff, including my tools. He had a grudge against my brother, but he took my tools, and I was really mad about that. The only tools that I had from that were out of the box that were still, they were like being used, and it was that hammer and a pair of vice grips that I have, and it's like an ancient pair of vice grips that I've had that I don't even use them. It's just ones that I've found in a piece of machinery, like farm equipment, up at the junkyard. And when I found them, they were rusted stiff. They would not move at all. And I lubricated them up, worked with them, got them loose, or got the pair loose, and I've had that pair of vice grips ever since. And I've probably had the vice grips longer than the hammer, honestly. So let me see what we got here. We have Mike Connolly. Hi from Feeding Hills, Massachusetts. Well, I'll give you a bell for that because I've never heard of Feeding Hills, Massachusetts. I'm guessing that's the name. Jeff, yeah, that is a hammer. That is one that definitely does its job. Jerry says he has one of those hammers too. Dave, that was my first attempt at a train layout. A little skill, a little research, a lot of luck. Well, it was really nice. It was really nice. Jeff is asking, Barry, does it have a name? No. It's hammer. Just a hammer. I don't name my tools because then if I ever lost one, I would feel really bad. You know, it'd be like losing a friend if I gave him a name. Like all those tools that were stolen, if I'd given every one of those sockets and wrenches and screwdrivers names, I'd be heartbroken. I wouldn't be able to go on. So you can't do that. You can't tie a name to the tool. That would be bad. Cheryl says the Thunderbird has not been wrecked or damaged or even tore apart. Also, very little rust in original taillights. Well, that is a plus. That is a plus. Mike, new to the channel, like what I see. Well, I'm glad you're here, Mike. If you're just checking in with us tonight, this is Monday Night Live. I do this at 7 o'clock. I try to do it every Monday, and I don't think I've missed a Monday in quite some time. And I occasionally, I try to do Thursdays at 3 p.m. for people like Jeff. He's in the UK. I can't remember exactly where, Jeff. I know you're over there, but it's more in line with their time in Europe. So I try to do one on Thursdays at 3. Mike. Oh, it's okay. Mike Conley. It's outside of Springfield, Mass, near Basketball Hall of Fame. Well, that's cool. I guess I didn't realize there was a Basketball Hall of Fame. One of those sports I don't keep up with. I'm sure there is a Hall of Fame, though. You got to have one for all major sports, I guess. Clark Clifford, to some people, every tool is a hammer. Yeah. Very true. Very true. 68 Stang. Reese, got my Mustang running. Not sure if you could tell from the video, but it's not running perfectly. Carb, idle, and timing problem. I didn't actually see or listen to the video, but I did see it. And it's hard to say what could be the exact problem. I don't know what you've done to it. It's, if you replaced, I don't know if it has points or if it's electronic ignition, if it's been upgraded at any point in time, all those different things will come into play. Jeff, I only asked because you said if anything happened to it. Well, yeah, I mean, if anything happened to it, I have to replace it, is the thing. Jerry, yes, most tools is a hammer. Okay. If you work on tractors, yes. I'll give you a bell for that, Jerry. Barry, don't forget about the Scandinavians when you talk about us way out east. Well, I mean, you're the only one here right now, Jeff. So that's why I referenced you, because I know we have Sweden represented. I think, was it Denmark? Karsten, I think, from Denmark. And we've had Ricard. Well, Ricard is from Sweden. I think on occasion we've had people from France. Even though I have a follower in Romania who's done the Viewers Project video, I haven't heard from him in a while. And I know we've had some odd ones. I think, we had, the name doesn't come to my mind, but I know he was in Ecuador last week. But he's from the States. He just happens to be in Ecuador watching the live stream, which is pretty cool. Again, it's still, is pretty amazing to me to think about the idea that not only are we able to get together and talk about the stuff going on in the world, but yeah, it's literally around the world. I can talk to people around the world, which is just still, even in today's day and age. I guess if I was 20 years old, it would feel totally natural. But I'm from the era of dial-up phones, where I was the TV remote, stuff like that. Go change that channel. We only have 3. Go change it. Okay, click. So still amazing. Jeff Reynolds and Norway. Yeah, I guess we did have Norway too. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of little, with all these European countries over there. It's like one big group of little countries. That's the way we see it over here in the States. Honestly, that's how we see it. It's because here in the States, we have the United States, where it's all these states crammed into the United States. Where in Europe, it's instead of states, it's all countries kind of pushed around against each other. And so it's a different viewpoint, I guess. But yeah. Clark, did you check out Evan's waterless coolant? I have not checked that out yet. I've got gnats in here, by the way, flying around. That's one thing I found. I don't know what's going on. If it's the weather or what. We've never really had issues with like not say gnats, but whatever they are, fruit flies type of things. But somehow, I don't know if it's happening everywhere in the States, but we're having it. A bunch of other people are having these little irritating little flies show up, and I don't know where they're coming from. Even my parents' house, I was up there in Pennsylvania a couple weeks ago, and they had them. And I thought, well, why are we being infested with these things? So anyway, we've been fighting with them in our house, and I have some issues out here with them as well. Here in the UK, the name for a hammer like that is a Manchester screwdriver. Okay. Cheryl, don't forget the foil on the rabbit ears. Well, I can tell you this, Cheryl. I don't know if we actually had rabbit ears that I recall. We had some giant, multi-fingered antenna mounted to the chimney of the old farmhouse that I grew up in. And I'll make this. Where's Cooter? Cooter's not here. I'm going to call this a junkyard story because let me see if I have that. I'll call this a junkyard story time. I don't know where Cooter is. He's missing out. I know this is his favorite part. Anyway, growing up in this old farmhouse, and this house was built probably in the late 1800s. Had stone, stacked stone for the basement wall. Had a first floor, second floor, and then a big attic, third floor. And so if you picture the quintessential old farmhouse, big box, staircase that went in the middle of the house. So there was a staircase that went up from the basement, and then the one above it went to the first or second floor, and then the one above that went to the attic. Now this house was never insulated. It actually had asbestos shingles on it. It had big plate panels that were asbestos shingles attached to the side of it. And this house, I remember Dad doing renovations on it. It had like the 2x4s were more like 3x4s or something. They were huge, but they were also spaced at like 2 or 3 foot intervals. So the construction technique was totally different. And then it had the lath and plaster. So you had the flat pieces of wood that were nailed to the boards, and then plaster that covered them up. That was how you finished it out. Anyway, we had this giant antenna mounted to the chimney, and it came down through the roof of the house, basically. Just, I don't know how whatever it was, came through the roof of the house. And then from there, it had wires that went all the way down to the living room. And whenever something would happen, the weather would make that thing turn, and we'd lose our 3 channels that we had to form like a daisy chain. So like, I don't know whatever the call was, whoever was home, somebody had to go all the way up to the attic, and then somebody had to go to the bottom of the steps for the attic, and somebody was at the bottom of the steps for the main house. And there was a pair of vice grips clamped onto the post for that antenna, and there was wire. My dad had wire attached to the wall, and basically you could rotate the vice grips, and you'd holler out, "How's that? How's that? How's that?" Because the fourth person was watching a TV, and he would say, "That's good," or "No, the other way, the other way, the other way, the other way." So you turn it back. How's that? How's that? How's that? You go back and forth multiple times. When you finally got it to where you had a channel, you take the wire and you wrap it around the vice grips so that they couldn't rotate anymore. Yeah. The good old days in the 70s, when we didn't have all the fancy stuff we have today. Kids will never know today how difficult it was to not only watch just 3 channels, but to just get them in there, get them tuned in. So anyway, that was Junkyard Story Time. All right. I have to see if Kuderlev shows up for that. And Cheryl says, yeah, same thing in Missouri. Jerry, we have the gnats or fruit flies here in Middle Tennessee. Yeah. Barry, I was trying to help you not be too American in your view of Europe, and you screwed it up. I'm sorry. I've never been to Europe. I don't, we don't have the our understanding is pretty limited here in the States. It's just like we have states. I think Mexico has states. I think what Canada has provinces. I think. Everybody calls them different things, but Europe is unique because they're individual countries. So anyway. Clark, I bought a 68 Mustang. It started as 6-cylinder, was converted by a previous owner. I thought I paid too much. I just realized the engine in it is a K-Code 289 Hypo. Well, that's a plus. I don't know what you paid for the car, but I'll call that a plus anyway. Kuderlev, he's here just multitasking. Well, you got a pretty simplified junkyard story. Brian, hello from Northern Idaho. Glad you're here. Dave, you need a jingle and graphic to pop up when it's junkyard story time. Well, I had on the bottom of the page there, I did have a thing, whatever you want to call it, a little banner. Jeff Reynolds saying hi to Cooter. Let's see. Ronald Bell, hey Barry, a little late, but checking in from Northeast Tennessee. Yep. And you've got a Mustang project to build. Okay, so Jerry is saying, "Amen" on the TV channels. Yeah. 3 channels. That was it. And I was amazed because this is still at a time like in the late 70s. I had friends who had cable. I mean, I'd go to their house and just, oh, what is all this? I didn't know this existed. That's black tea, Jerry. Black tea. Not coffee, black tea. And it's good. Dennis Paulson, hi Barry, would you give me your email address? I can do that. I can do that right now. Boom. Boomsy. Boomsy right there. JoeDaddy'sGarage@gmail.com. Bottom of the screen. And I got an email from somebody. And I don't understand what they sent me because it just says something about a 67 Stang, but there's no link or anything. So I don't know if they were trying to send me something. It says, check out this. Oh, okay. There it is. So there is a link. Oh, wow. That is pretty cool. I'll check that out later. That was pretty cool. All right. So anyway, there's the email address on the bottom of the screen. And if anybody wants to get on to the live stream tonight, by all means, send me an email. I'll send you a link, and you can be on the live stream. Brian, we had the same setup, Barry. Also, do you remember having to constantly adjust the vertical and horizontal hold? Yeah. Trying to get that. Back then, though, every channel, they were like went off the air like at midnight or something. I think is what it was. Pretty sure it was midnight, and they would, you get that, and they have like the bars, the different color bars, and I think sometimes I don't remember what channel for sure. They would play the Star Spangled Banner, back then. So they'd end it with the Star Spangled Banner every night. So those days are long gone. But yeah, vertical and horizontal hold. I'll give you a bell for that. Cooter, my man cave shop is 150 feet from the house with no cable. Still a rooftop antenna. Tougher today as all stations have reduced their broadcast signal strength since most people have cable. That is true. I have found, though, for us, I had one of those digital antennas that looks very much like, a small version of the old style finger antenna, whatever. And I initially had it up on the roof of my house. And then I decided, well, it's an indoor-outdoor, so I moved it inside, and it works fine. Works great. Picks up a lot of channels. In fact, I'd be amazed. If I was a kid back then and we had that kind of service from that antenna, I would be amazed. I mean, we used to get, on this antenna, I think we pick up 40 or 50 stations, I think. Maybe more. And some of them were like music and, different things like that, not just regular broadcast stuff. So anyway, Reese, we will only see Britain, Spain, Italy, Germany, and Ireland. Everything else is a blur. And that's from a teenager. You're right. And I hate to say that. We know where the boot is, right? Italy, we know where that is. That's probably the most identifiable feature we could think of for Europe. Is the boot, right? That's all. I mean, you're right. Everything else just kind of blends together. And it doesn't, even here in the States, if you didn't know where they'd drawn a map, and had all the states broken down by lines, you wouldn't know the difference. You would just say, oh, it's just a big blob, which it really is. Those lines, you can't see them, So anyway, let's see. Jeff Reynolds, Barry, Mexico, Canada, etc. Please quit while you're ahead. I don't know. I went to school a long time ago. I don't remember any of that stuff. I remember some of it, obviously. Clark Clifford, 2000. Wait a minute. What's that comment about? Oh, okay. 2000, that's not bad. That's for the price of that car with the Hypo 289? That's a good deal. I'm assuming, I don't know what condition the car is in, but I would assume that's a good deal. He just had the frame rails welded in. Okay, well. Dennis Paulson, what comes after garage? What comes after garage? Oh, it's at gmail.com. It's on I don't know, it's at the bottom of the screen. It's Joe Daddy's Garage at gmail.com. Sorry. I thought you might be watching and be able to see it on the bottom of the screen there. Crafty Cousins, Shelby is checking in. Glad you're here, Shelby. You did a good job on the viewer's project. I'm looking forward to updates on that car. If y'all haven't seen it, Shelby and her dad and her brother made the viewer's project video on the 68 coupe that they're building. And they've got some, neat ideas. And I think it's pretty cool, father-daughter project. And even having Cole involved with making the video was fun. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to updates on that. I hope you can figure out those seats, Jason. I hope you can figure out those seats. That would be pretty awesome. Jerry, great black tea. I have about 3 cups each morning. Oh, well, yep. I usually do coffee in the morning. Yeah, Jeff, not now. Too late. You're too late. I can give an update on my 66 Mustang and where I am. I thought it would be on the road by now, but maybe in a couple weeks. Well, we could do that. Give me just a second, Jerry. Denny Alvey is checking in from Paducah, Kentucky. You know, that's one of those names, Paducah. I'm sure there's a history behind it. I don't know what it's about, but it's one of those that kind of sticks with you. You know, when you think about it, you hear that name, Paducah, Kentucky, and it just kind of all fits together. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Jeff, have you heard of Paducah, Kentucky? Need an answer from you. Crash Rider, different color bars. How about black and white TV? You didn't even mention telephone party lines. Yes, very true. Yep. If you had a black and white TV, you didn't know that those lines were color and on the screen. And we didn't have a party line where we lived because there was nobody close enough to share one with. But my grandmother did. And that was always awkward. You pick up the phone, you hear somebody, Clarence is getting surgery again on their, whoa. I don't know what that's about. You know, you think about the privacy today. I'm sure, you know, all the people picking up, listening on party lines just to hear the latest gossip, what's going on. And again, people don't know. Some people don't know what party lines are, but if you don't know, a party line, and I'll just break it down real quick, was a shared phone line. So you might have your own individual number, of course, but the line itself was just like an open line that you might share with who knows how many houses. I don't know what the limit was. Maybe 10 houses. You know, as a cost-saving measure, you would share the phone line. So if you need to make a phone call and you picked it up, you might have somebody talking and you're like, wait, you might have to interrupt them and say, hey, I have to call an ambulance. Can I have the phone? You know, really awkward. But yeah, they used to have party lines. And I'm glad we don't have any of that right now, besides the NSA and the CIA and all those agencies that listen to us with our cell phones. Now we just talk, and they just listen to whatever we're saying, even with the phone off. So Shelby got half of the front. Oh, and you said cut. Okay, half of the front cut yesterday. Yeah, I think from the comment or what I heard from your dad was going to either take out the seat riser or put in lowered seat risers because the seats are really tall. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing an update on that. Reese, that would be, yeah, the interior would be awesome. Yeah, I think so too. Cooter Lev, no coffee, no worky. That's the air compressor. Venting. Jack W checking in. Glad you're here. Shelby, think my dad got the wiring good and he just needs to do it. Well, I hope so. I mean, I think it'll be really cool to have, you know, a 68 Mustang with heated and air conditioned seats. Yeah, that would be really cool. Cheryl, it's nice our young people are wanting to work on cars and trucks. Yes, I agree with that. Butch checking in. Glad you're here. Willie Goodman, good evening from Moore, Oklahoma. I think we've got about 3 people from out that way. I think. I could be wrong. I know we have several from Tennessee. And Jeff. Yes, Jeff is, as he says, from, I see it now, from Barking. Barking. He's from Barking something. I don't know the right terms. Barking Europe. I know that's not right. That's not right. Oh boy, that's a new name. Let me see if I can say your name. Aduraman Sia? Abdurrahmansiyah. That's my guess. Abdurrahmansiyah. Either that or it's Abdurrahmansiyah. I don't know. I'm glad you're here, though. I've not seen that name before. I'm glad you're here. Abdurrahman. But the last name I'm not sure. Abdurrahmansiyah or Saya. Okay. Willie Goodman got my roof scan off the 65 Stang yesterday. That was a task. Well, good. Yeah, that's not easy. I know it's not easy getting the roof off. Jeff, no, I don't. I didn't know Paducah, Kentucky, but I'm glad I do now. It sounds even crazier than barking. Jerry, Crash Rider, where are you buying the interior? Your interior. You're asking Crash Rider, so I have to get an answer on that. Brandon Reisinger, hello everyone. Also joining from Oklahoma, another Oklahoma or Oklahomie. Is that what that is? You say Oklahomie? Oklahomian? I don't know what the expression is, but that's several people from Oklahoma. Nick. yeah, air compressor. I've been blaming my air compressor all day too. Yeah. Jeff, Barking, Essex. It's in East London, UK, soon to be outside Europe. The Brexit. See, right? Brexit. Am I getting that right? Brexit? I hope. I guess I understand. More black tea, thanks to Jerry. Anyway, so, I've done, I did this last two videos on that Mitsubishi Raider. Let's see, Brandon Reisinger, Okie from Oklahoma. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Well, Jerry says, okay, Okie is a reference. I'm also from Oklahoma too. I still think, I don't think that's a correct answer. Like, if you're from Georgia, you're a Georgian, right? Alabama, I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'll mess it all up trying to figure that out. Okie. Go with that. Okay. So as I said, I did those two videos on the Mitsubishi Raider. And I do have a video in the mix right now, in the mixer that I'm working on. I'm rebuilding the hinges for the Jade Mustang. I had already done the video on the 65 and 6 style of door hinge. I did one for the 67, and I thought, well, again, this is where I get kind of like, I've talked with people about this. I mentioned this before, where I'm like, do I need to do another video of the same thing that I've already done? And 9 times out of 10, people say, yeah, because I might show a different angle or a different perspective or something different might be new. So, I'm making a video. And the 68 is different than the 65, 6, and 7. 65 and 6 or 64 and a half. So 66 share a design. And then 67 has a design, which is, if I remember, similar to the 66, but slightly different. And then the 68 is different altogether. Well, at least the spring function is. But anyway, I'm in the mid-process of rebuilding those hinges. So I'll be having a video coming out on door hinges for 68 Mustang very soon, just to let you know. Doug Pinzer, hello from upstate New York, 66 Fastback. Glad you're here, Doug. Cheryl, I'm a transplant. There's a lot of, the reality is I think a lot of us are transplanted, depending on the job or, families, different things like that. I mean, I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I'm here in Georgia. My brother is in Kentucky. My sisters still live up in Pennsylvania, but we have other family members who are moved around. Tennessee, have some family there, and anyway, so I think it's getting more rare. I think for people to stay either in the town they grew up in, or even the city or whatever, and even so the state that they grew up in, because I think people get a kind of an opinion of where they lived or grew up, and they think, well, it must be better somewhere else. And then they move somewhere else and they find out, well, it's really not that much different other than the weather or something like that. But that's just maybe my opinion. You know, I could be wrong. Could be. Crash Rider Jerry, you had me confused with someone else. Okay. Cooter, an Oklahoman here. Okies migrated to California during the Dust Bowl. Grapes of Wrath. Oh, there you go. Okay, well, Oklahoman. Barry, can you give Shelby another shout out for her very informed progress report on Crafty's Mustang? Well, I think we just did. And again, I had some fun with that, with the video, because I used some clips, some audio from that. You know, my outstanding editing that I do. I stole pieces of from the video, pulled some of the audio out, and pieced it together on there to make it more fun. So that was a good video. Cheryl, my dad was in the Navy. I was born in Connecticut. Well, see, there you go. That's another thing. You have military people like myself who get transferred state to state to state. And I know many military people who started off in one state and they ended up in a whole nother, well, in some places, country, you know. Or, you know, I've had friends who their last duty station was in Hawaii, and they stayed. I don't blame them for that, but you know, you get these options when you're military to travel, and you know, some people take advantage of it and realize, hey, I like it here. I'm just going to stay. Abdurrahman, good morning from Indonesia. See, that's a new one. That is new. Indonesia. I'm going to lay claim that that's the first person from Indonesia to be on the live stream for sure. And I don't know how much the videos get viewed, or my videos normally get viewed like in Indonesia. I know I can go on the YouTube, and there's analytics and all kinds of junk, and I could pull up the average age of people, whether it's male or female, and then breaks it down by country. Of course, the U.S. is my biggest viewer, and then I think it's like Canada, then Australia, and then it's really gets small into little individual countries. But I think it's pretty cool. Indonesia, that's a new one. That's fantastic. Now let's see. Yes, thanks to Cooter. Max Hathaway, I live in California, not the most ideal for a car guy. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Okay, so Shelby, you like that? Crafty's Mustang. Well, I think Shelby has been used, you know, on Mustangs. I think Shelby has been used on Mustangs before. So maybe it needs to be Crafty's Mustang. That might be kind of cool. That might be. Dave Britton. In the past, I've always said Dave Brittain, but it's Britton. Is here. I'm glad you're here, Dave. Hope things are going well. Hey, look, we got like 58 viewers. That's awesome. That's pretty good. Doug Pinzer. Wonder where I can get back seat brackets that weld to the wheel wells for fastback seats. Secondly, best street gears for 351 stroker with C6 for the street. Good questions. I'm probably not going to be the best to be able to give you a good answer on the gears for the 351 stroker with a C6. C6, of course, that's only a 3-speed automatic. So depending on, you know, if you're going to try to get any kind of mileage with it, I mean, you can't go, like, definitely 411 is out. I mean, you just think about that. You're going to go from 0 to the next gas station with something like that. But you know, as far as an actual number, I know like the Jade Mustang, I think the gear ratio is a straight 300 in it, because it's got an automatic transmission, and you're not going to have you're not going to have, how do I want to put it, much of a gear ratio. Like, you go too tall, and man, you're not going to, you're going to launch fast, but you're going to lose top end, if you're looking at cruising speed. So somebody may have a good answer for that. I don't know. But, I'm using the 300. A lot of the reason I'm using the 300 is because that's what was in the car when I started working on it. Now, I could change that out later if I'm not happy with it, but at this point, that's what I'm going to run. And as far as the brackets, wondering where I get back seat brackets at welded wheel wells for fastback seats. I don't know if any of the vendors have those or not. I have not. That's something I haven't researched at all, so I don't have an answer on that. If anybody has any ideas, by all means, let Doug know. Clark, you need a pin map for viewer locations. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. That would be kind of cool. They would all be in Oklahoma tonight, right? And one in Indonesia and one in the UK. And Tennessee. Shelby, my classmates call me the Mustang girl. Well, that's probably a good reason for that. And teachers as well. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Jeff Reynolds, Indonesia. Steady as you go now, Barry. Yeah. It's kind of amazing to me. I don't think about, because most of my videos are on Mustangs. Of course, I have some on Camaros, various maintenance videos and stuff like that. So my default mindset is not thinking Mustangs in Indonesia. I don't know if that's even a thing over there. But I would assume there's, maintenance, obviously my brake jobs and stuff like that I do that may be relatable. So Max Hathaway, gears should be estimated with tire size. That is a good, yeah, I agree with that. Nick, 350 is always a safe bet. Probably true. Again, it depends on what you want to do with it. If you're just cruising, I wouldn't put it like, a tall gear in it, because you'll smoke the tires and stuff, but you can't, you'll never get any kind of mileage out of it. That's for sure. But 350 may be the answer. I don't know. You're welcome, Doug. Pedro Barbosa. Hi, Barry. I hope everything is okay with you. And one from Portugal. That's right. So Indonesia, Portugal, the UK, Tennessee and Oklahoma, and Wisconsin, I think, and California. I'm sure there's a variety of other places. Jerry, CJ Pony may be a source. That's possible for the seats. Am so 355 RE and a gear vendor, best of both worlds. That is true. You could do the gear vendor overdrive setup. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Max, Doug, there are calculators for you to figure out what RPM you'll be at a given speed with gear ratios, trans, final drive ratios, and tire size. Now, that would be a nice, handy, I'm sure there's a website that has all that. And if you have an idea, Max, maybe you can type in a link. I know it won't let you do a direct link, but if you want to just kind of if you have one in mind that you can share with us, that'd be great. Jack, when welding patch panels, you prefer to have the panels touch or slightly gapped? That's a good question. I try to get as tight as I can, but not to the point where it's forced tight. If you have just a air gap of next to nothing, that's fantastic, because to me, when you start butting things together and you start welding, it's going to want to force it to move a little bit, especially if you go too fast, which I try to avoid. But if you have a little bit of a gap, you can tack, and alleviate a lot of that problem. The challenge ultimately is, if you're doing a long patch panel, let's say, are you going to be able to get it a perfect gap all the way across, it's going to be a real difficult thing to do. But if you can get it close, then you just have to adjust your welding to fill in that gap. But I'm not sure if that gave you the answer you were looking for, but I try not to force anything together. I don't want it so tight that you start welding and it has to push. Let's see. Brandon, it sounds like we need a Joe Daddy's Mustang Club of Oklahoma. That would be good. Abdurrahman, thank you very much, Mr. Joe. You're welcome. I'm really glad you're here. That's pretty cool. Jeff shouting out to Pedro. And Abdurrahman, hello, Barry. Well, hello. And Bob Shoemaker, Okies. Yep. I don't know, what would you call it? Joe Daddy's Okie Club? Hold on a second. I got to get a little more black tea. I did send Jerry a link, so I don't know if he got the link or not. For the live stream. Let me pull the banner off for just a second. Okay. So if he responds, that'd be great. We'll find out here in a minute. Let's see. Oh, Marshall, I've used those weld spacers that give a 1/32 gap. Work well, but only when you have access to the back of the panel. Good point. Otherwise, you lose the back of the clip. I have some of those. I've used them on occasion. But you're right. If you can't get to the back and you've lost half of your tool in the quarter panel or wherever you're at. Terry Baptist Lowe from Pinellas Park, and that's in Florida, I believe. I think. Makes sense to me. We were talking earlier about the old TV stations and the static and the antennas and phones and all that sort of thing. I picked something up this past week. Oh, look, man, we're at 68. That's awesome. If you would, make sure you all throw a thumbs up on the video, on the live stream for me, okay? But I was at a yard sale this past week. And, Brandon's Outdoor Adventure checking in from Ohio. Cool. Let's see. Okay, here you go. Max Hathaway, Pure Performance has a good RPM calculator. Just Google. It is simple to use. You can play around with options and figure out what your ideal setup is. There you go, Doug. And Jack is saying he has them, just haven't tried them yet. Still learning. Plug welds I can do. The stitch weld boggles me. Yeah. Well, it's a learned thing. It's definitely a learned process. Anyway, I was at a yard sale, and occasionally I'll stop at yard sales just because I want to just see what's there. You never know. You never know what you're going to stumble across. I see you, Jerry, in the background. We'll get you up in a minute. So I've had this stereo in my garage. It's an Aiwa, A-I-W-A. I guess that's how you say it. Aiwa. I don't know. A-I-W-A. And I bought this one at a yard sale or something. And it works. But I've noticed that, I can crank it at full volume, and it just doesn't make a lot of noise, doesn't make a lot of sound. It's got a CD player. I don't think it works. And I don't know if the tape decks work, whatever. So I was at a yard sale, and basically it was the same stereo, but updated many generations. So I picked it up and got a really good price on it, I feel. But this thing, you turn it up about halfway and it's rocking out the garage. So I have to swap out some stuff, get this old one out of the way and put the new one up. However, while I was there, I was looking at all these items this guy had, and he had a bunch of old radios. The ones that, I think he had some that were like the Bakelite, like plastic, with the big round dial on it and stuff, and variety of designs of these old time radios. And I'm interested in them, but I'm like, what am I going to do with them? I'm not going to, I would just sit on a shelf and let it get dirty. So I don't need that. But I'm looking through these different things. And he had like some old cameras and different stuff. And it caught my eye that there was a little transistor radio. Now this is what I picked. I got this along with the stereo that I bought. Okay, this is a General Electric integrated circuit, little AM/FM. Has an HP jack for headphones, right? And of course, it has the traditional pull-out antenna and the dial that moves across the screen there, or the window. Now, I picked it up, I turned it on, it worked. It works. And the only reason I bought this, like, I don't need this. Oh, look, it also has a clip. Like, if you were to, you could be pretty cool and put it on your hip, right? Well, I don't think it would fit your belt. You have to slip it onto a pocket, otherwise, might break off. But the only reason I bought this is because it brought back memories of that time period we were talking about earlier with the old TVs, antennas, and stuff like that. And this is very similar. I can't say it's exactly the same, but it's very similar to a radio that my grandmother had. I'm pretty sure that it was similar to this. One speaker, whatever. And I said it before, I used to love watching baseball games on the radio with my grandmother. So it just kind of reminded me of that time period when I was a kid, and I'd be at my grandmother's house and she'd pull out the radio and tune in to the whatever station it was playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. And we would listen to, Willie Stargell stepping to the plate, guys like that, Kent DeColvey, and all these old time Pirates players. And so that's why I bought this. I just thought it was, just kind of one of those little memory type of things. But again, I don't need it, but it works. So I could actually take this out somewhere if I needed to. Now we have, of course, cell phones with Bluetooth and cordless wireless speakers and all that stuff. But, this thing, man, I'm not going to turn it on, because if it plays music, then, YouTube will gig me for trying to put music on the channel. Let's see. Follow the Builds checking in from Fort Worth, Texas. Clark Clifford says, yeah, radio needs a blower. Yeah. Terry Baptist, you win. What's behind door number 1? All right. We're going to get an update from Jerry. So let's pull Jerry onto the stream. There he is.
Good afternoon or good evening, guys.
How you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing great. Been a lot of excitement going on here. A lot of learning going on.
Okay.
And I'm still in learning mode. So let me kind of show you what we got done since you were here. And I think we're getting close. I thought we were going to drive the car this week, but it's not going to happen. So let me go show you what we've done.
Okay. Let's have a look.
All right. So the most impressive thing I've got done is putting the Ford emblem back on the front end.
Okay. Oh, there you are.
And
yeah.
So as a tip for individuals that have painted their car or having it painted, the drill size for the inserts for the logo is 1/8 inch.
Right.
So, of course, you remember, I think from the last time, well, actually we talked, I think, and I was having problems with the windshield and the trim. Well, all that got resolved by your suggestion, Barry, on adjusting the clips.
Stretching the clip out a little bit.
And I did, I was hesitant about doing that on the car without pulling the windshield out.
Yeah.
But I decided that worst case, if I broke something or heaven forbid the windshield,
right,
that I just have to replace it. So I tried it and it worked.
Good.
And all that.
That always feels good.
Go ahead.
I said that always feels good to get something like that in place.
So I don't know what you're seeing here.
I see the dash.
I got the dash pad in. I got the trim in. I got the radio in. Oh, by the way, this is a radio I bought from CJ Pony. I paid $220 for it. It's got 8 AM channels pre-programmed and 4 AM channels, and it sounds pretty awesome.
Good.
And so you can see where I haven't put the instrument panel back in. And when I pulled the instrument panel out of the wrapping, I decided to order a new bezel for it. And it'll be in Wednesday, as least I understand. And I'll put that in, and that's done. And after 4 hours of work today, I have the rear glass back in and the trim put back on it.
Good. Whoa. No stunts, Jerry. No stunts.
I was trying to do a back loop, and it failed. But anyway, so you can tell. I think you can see through the through the glass.
Yeah.
The package tray is in, our cover is in, speakers are in, everything's wired up, and I got to tell you, for a $218 radio,
yeah,
this thing, of course, the speakers in the back here cost $175.
Yeah,
and it sounds pretty awesome.
Good.
So the challenges that I'm running into right now as I move around through the maze of information is I got the new trim rails in. Everything looks good except for right here.
Oh, won't stay on.
And I haven't figured it out yet. As you know, these things have a lip on them.
Yep.
And as they come down, this lip is just not coming down. And I've looked at it. I've actually measured it with a mic, and I'm guessing the problem is the being in this corner when I was painting, coming across like this, is I just got too much buildup in here.
That's a possibility.
So that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. And after about, I don't know, maybe an hour of working on this, I decided, because these are new rails. Oh, by the way, they're made in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And most of the parts I've got from Taiwan have been pretty decent parts.
Okay.
But, if the tolerance is off on the top of this drip rail, then that clip is not going to clip in there and let the bottom come around.
Yeah. Yeah. You may have to just kind of sand that down a little bit. Sand down the paint.
And I thought about that, and I'll show you something over here as I go back to the other side. When I was doing this frame rail, I noticed that there was a buildup of, I'm guessing, something from the previous repair, body filler in here. So I picked all that out, and so I could snap this rail in all the way to around here. You can see where I've chipped the paint.
Right.
And then down here, it gets really tight. And then here, same thing happens.
Okay. Well, so you know, there should be seam sealer in there.
There probably was some seam sealer until I picked this out, because when I media blasted it, I didn't blast all the stuff out of here.
Okay. And
so what I'm going to have to do is go back in and probably seam seal this a little bit.
Yep. Definitely.
And all, but it's getting close. I'm ready to drive it.
I'm sure.
And the other thing that I did, I'll have to kind of juggle this.
Okay.
Is I was able to get all these pieces of these
The hood bumpers.
stops in,
Yeah.
and that was a little bit of a challenge because back here, because this is an after panel, that's an after panel,
Right.
this is an after panel here.
Right.
That's the only original panel left in
Okay.
the engine bay on the aprons, and so I thought I had marked this stuff correctly and cut everything out, but as it turned out, when I got to this part of the install, they what the holes I cut out wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
So I had to cut those out, and I used a air saw and a drill.
Yep.
So I drilled a pilot hole and then cut it out, and then I used vice grips and just worked it back and forth till it broke off.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, this goes back to where, as I mentioned before, we talked about it. With your experience, this is new to you, so you're not used to all these things. And the as I mentioned many times, test fit, and not to say that that's something you would have identified right off the bat, that those holes didn't quite line up, but that's part of that process.
Well, actually, I did do a test fit on it, and when I did the test fit, it did line up.
Okay.
But what I didn't do was bolt in the front end and underneath the car and stuff like that. So when I bolted all that stuff solid, it moved where I'd cut the holes in the apron.
Okay.
And then the other thing I got done was I got this seal on, and I'm waiting for the screws to come in for this. But
I can't see where you're pointing at.
The cal seals.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I was thinking about this for the last couple of days, as I've been working on this thing. I can't see how this seal does a lot of good for the car. I'm sure it does something.
Well, what I think it does, Jerry, is it tries to deflect stuff coming from under the hood up on the windshield. I think that's the purpose
actually,
of it.
I hadn't thought about that. That's probably correct.
Yeah, you're thinking of it as a downward motion, but I think it's more of the air coming underneath and then blowing up onto the windshield where you may have had some oil or something leaking or something like that, to where it could contaminate the windshield. And
well, that's good to know. I hadn't thought about that. So I did get this seal on.
That looks nice.
And that took a little research to figure out how to actually put it on there. It should have been intuitive to me, but it wasn't. And so I got that on there, and I found out the reason for this, which is probably true for a lot of these Mustangs in the early years, is at least what I've heard on 2 or 3 blogs and YouTube channels, is this is in here to seal against the hood to deflect the air down through the radiator.
Yep.
Which is why they didn't put shrouds on these radiators.
Right.
So it just saved a little bit of money, but it's close.
Yeah.
And the last thing I've got done is I've got the carpet laid out, and I've fitted the carpet. I don't know if you can see it very clear or not.
Yep.
I fitted the rear end. I'm letting it form because it's what they call the preform carpet.
Yes.
And then Once I get to the next step, I'm going to pull the gear shift off so I can push the front carpet in, mark everything, and it's actually marked on the carpet on the underneath side where the cut should be. But I'm not going to cut the carpet until I get it fitted in there and make sure that it's
Yeah.
where I want it and stuff like that.
Yes.
And I got the new the glove box in, and I got to tell you, if you're putting a new glove box in this car, you really should do that fitting before you put the radiator the heater assembly in, because it is a bear. I mean, it is just brutal to get that thing in, and I was afraid I was going to tear it up.
Well, Jerry, I have a couple questions that people are asking.
Okay.
I know Terry Baptist is asking what part of the world are you in, which you're from Tennessee, so Middle Tennessee.
Yes.
Cheryl says, car looks great. Cooter is asking, Jerry, is your pony corral from a 65? Thought I saw a crossbar. So the grill, is it a 60? What year is your car?
66.
Okay, but is the grill a 65 or 6?
Well, it was in the car when I got it, so I have to. I know the car was wrecked.
Yeah.
As we discussed, and so I don't know how to verify if it was a 65 or 66. But what I do know is that when I pull this grill out, and I'll see if I can show it to you here real quick.
Okay.
I had all kind of problems mounting this thing in to get it solid.
You're aimed a little high. Where are you? Okay. Oh, okay.
And so I made the assumption that this was the original grill.
Yeah, I forget what the difference is. I know there's some subtle difference between the two, as Cooter had mentioned.
So given the fact that you and I both, I think, are in agreement that both front fenders have been replaced.
Right.
This grill is very possible out of a 65.
It could be.
Because there's no way you could have damage enough or in my mind, there's no way you could have enough damage to the fenders that didn't affect the grill.
Right.
Now, I will tell you, the Valance down here, this is new.
Yeah.
But the original one was full of body filler.
Oh, okay.
So I'm guessing that what happened, as I pieced together the forensics of this thing, is probably whoever's driving the car had a car stop in front of them for whatever reason, and they locked down the brakes, and the car dipped, and that probably which actually makes a lot of sense now, which is probably why I'm having so much trouble getting all this alignment in here. And it dipped down, and it just knocked the front end out of it. But they used the original grill. I mean, the Valance.
Okay.
So that's what kind of suggests to me that the car dipped down and then hit something, which is like probably a big bumper, and probably knocked everything in.
Well, I have a comment from Warren saying that's a 65 grill.
Okay.
And then Warwagon says 66 does not have the bars coming off of the corral, the crossbars from the what would be the corral of the pony, what they call it. He says it doesn't have the ones going out to the sides.
From here?
Yeah. So it could be a mix of things.
Well, as we've discovered somewhat together, it is a mix of things.
Yeah. Let me see.
So,
Another comment from Cooter. He says the radiator crossmember seal was only on the 6-cylinder cars in 65 and 66. You can always tell a V8 conversion if you see the staple holes from the seal.
I didn't know that, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the staple holes are in the support. And what I did to put the support on was, rather than trying to match up the staple holes, I just drilled new holes.
Yeah.
That was a lot easier than trying to align that stuff. And
Right.
so, but anyway, we are making progress. And I've got a list. I'll show you here in just a little bit. But we are making progress on it. I've got a little touch-up paint to do and a little more cleaning to do on the windshields and glass. I had an experience yesterday on this door, which opens and closes. Really nice.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with how these assemblies work. So this gasket.
I can't see where aimed. Oh, there you go.
This gasket
Yeah.
had dropped down and was kind of pinched down. So I loosened the screw here.
Right.
To just enough so I could pull this gasket up.
Okay.
And then the door wouldn't open. Would not open.
Oh, would not open.
Yep. And so I'm going to go grab a door handle real quick, so it'll go dark, but it won't be long.
I've got a couple questions here. This is not related to your car, but Bellman Zavecki is asking me thoughts on the Shelby, 2014 Shelby GT500. I really don't have any thoughts on it because I've not been around them. I'm sure it's a cool car, a good car, but I don't know what I would say about them other than they're probably pretty fast and fun to drive.
Barry, what model car was the Shelby Cobra?
What's that?
What model?
He's saying a Shelby GT500, 2014.
All right. Well, I've got a Shelby 2009 GT500 with supercharger on it.
Right.
And I can tell you, just hang on to your ass.
Okay.
It's plenty fast.
Okay.
So this is a door handle that came off.
Yes.
All right. So if you look right here, as it pushes through,
yes,
this thing bolts in or clips in and has a screw, as you can see right there.
You got to aim your camera a little better. There you go. That's closer. Right. Close.
Sorry.
I know it's a challenge. I know it is.
So if you look at this, you can see how square it fits.
Right.
That's the original. Well, the replacement that I put on was actually elevated to my right, to the right of the camera.
Okay.
And then the locking mechanism was about a 30-second longer than this original one.
Okay.
So having given you that information, when I made this adjustment to get this gasket back in alignment, the door wouldn't open. And I spent half a day trying to figure out how, what happened.
Right.
And what I finally had to do is pull this off and cut off about a 32nd of an inch.
Oh, wow.
Of that locking tab and clean that up and put it back in. So now the door opens and closes very nicely.
Well, that's good.
So anyway, that's the update on the Mustang from Tennessee.
Well, good. Every step counts, right?
I think I've said this to you before. My stepdad used to tell me that the cost of experience was the price of education, or the price of education was the cost of experience. And one day, as a young guy, I was going to be a smart old man because I was making all the mistakes early on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm still making some of those same mistakes. And the one thing I've learned from your channel, and I got to give you 2 thumbs ups on this, is that the detail that you go through. And I watched the video on the brake job that you did on the car
Right.
that you posted today, and the detail that you go through and the attention you pay to describing the process and what you're doing is invaluable. I mean, it's just, I mean, I've probably done 100 brake jobs like you've done, but I would have never thought about describing it the way you did. But the overall channel addresses the importance of fitting, test fitting, refitting, and getting everything bolted together before you go to paint.
Yep.
And if I've got a regret on this car, it's the regret that I did not pay attention to some of the stuff that I'd seen and subsequently have learned about the fitting of the panels and things like that.
Right.
Now, in kind of a defense of my ignorance, we had a cruise in last weekend, and there were 3 or 4 Mustangs, either 65, 66 there. And I went and looked at them, and the problems that I showed you with the passenger side fender, how it fit, and the right light extension, headlight extension to the hood and stuff like that, they all had that same problem.
Yep.
And so I guess maybe as a consolation, which doesn't make me feel very good, is that,
you're not the only one. You're not the only one.
So, but anyway, I'm pretty proud of the car. I think, given my travel schedule and stuff I got to do the next couple of weeks, that I think this car will be done by the end of the month, and I'll be driving it.
That sounds good.
And I was optimistic last week that it's going to be this week, but then let me show you my to-do list.
Yeah,
that's what all is left to get done.
I like that system. You get something done, you tear the tape off and throw it away, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And when I first started this car, this whole board was filled up.
I'm sure.
And the biggest problem, and I think you and I talked about this, and maybe this is something for others that are starting a project or something like that, is to evaluate the car and figure out where you need to start. I don't think you need to start as the car would be finished. I think you need to start from the point that says, this car has not been built yet, and what do I need to do to get it built?
Yeah.
And then you stage your stuff in as you can afford to do that, and you just do it in stages and just be complete with it.
Right. Well, and I've had a conversation in fact, today I had a conversation about a Mustang build, and basically it was like, where do I start? What do I do? And for me, everything starts at the bottom of the car. It doesn't matter the top. It doesn't matter anything else until you have a foundation. So that's why I do all the floor pans, frame rails, all that stuff, and then work your way up. And then you have a solid base to work from. Some people make the mistake. I've seen cars they've cut off the quarter panels, cut off this, cut off that, cut off the frame rails, and they're like, I don't know where any of this goes now. I don't have any reference points, and it's like, no, you can't do it that way. So,
well, when I started on mine, I did start from the bottom up because that was where the most damage was.
Right.
And what I did was I built a frame, and you've seen my lift.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I built a frame, and I used jack stands and then scissor jacks to level the car completely level. And the lift is level. So I kind of cross-checked all that stuff. And that's when I started cutting things loose.
Right.
And letting the car relax and stuff like that, which might be, I've watched Grease Rookie on his left frame rail problem. And, I've got a problem on the left frame rail where it droops.
Okay.
And I think I showed you that one of my solutions was to add a spacer, which I did, but I'm still not completely level in the back.
Right.
So I know there's something in there that's not right, but I've not been able to identify it because when I leveled this car, I took measurements off of all the level positions to the frame rails that was existing. And then what I replaced on the half rail replacements on the rear which primarily replaces the spring hangers on the back of the rear end. And I didn't notice that tilt until I got all that stuff done.
Yep.
And I've looked at it, and I to be honest with you, I'm guessing that it's just going to be what it is.
Yeah, that's probably all you can do, to be honest.
But I got to tell you, I'm really proud to get these trim strips on these the windshield and the back glass in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hardest work I've done.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I sorry about the word. I spent 6 hours a day getting that the trim strips on the back glass.
Right.
And it's just because they just don't snap in. And then I actually changed the sealant when I pulled the window out and cleaned everything up. I bought a new gasket, and I went back with a flowable silicone, which is not as messy as the black sealant. And I can show you a picture if you'd like to see what it is. It's a Permatex product. You can buy it on Amazon. If you buy 12 packs, it costs you about $4.50 a pack. Otherwise, it's about $7 in the store.
Okay.
But it's a lot easier to work with. The problem I had was I was following the instructions for the black stuff, which says put as much as you can get in there.
Okay.
Because it stays pliable for months.
Right.
The flowable silicone stays pliable. It never gets hard, but it's a silicone.
Right.
So if you fill up a bead and it's got everything sealed and you're going to try to slip something under it, it's not going to slip under it. So that was probably half of my time today cleaning that stuff out so that trim would fit underneath the clips.
Okay.
But it's a lot nicer product, and it's a little more expensive than the black stuff, but it's not near as messy.
That's good. That's a good sign. I have a couple other comments here. Cheryl made a comment. I'm not sure what she was referring to. She says something about I would look up who was famous at the year of the car and go with it. I'm not sure what that comment is about. It says, or even the favorite color of the famous person. So I'd have to ask Cheryl what that comment is. Hernandez family says no SEMA. I don't know what that means. That's not in my language. um, looks like a fantastic well-built solid machine. We'll move on. I don't know what that one's about. Okay. Got a couple here that are repeats, or I've already said. Cooter saying most likely a 67 Pony Corral, as it doesn't have the vertical bars coming off. So might have to do some research to see if that's which grill you actually have. I'm sure there's visuals online you can find. We've already talked about the engine before. Terry's asking what engine is in it. We commented it's a 6-cylinder. Is it a 200? I think it's 200 or 170. That's in it right now.
I'm sorry, 200.
A 200. Marshall says he thinks it's a mix. The Pony is 65 and the grill is 66. So maybe a little bit of both grill pieces in there.
Well, all I can tell you about the 65, I had this discussion with one of the lady that I bought it from's neighbor who thought it was a 65. The title is 66.
Right. Well, he's just talking about the grill itself.
Right. And so what I did learn, which I think it was Cooter that said, the transmission is a fully synchronized transmission, which did not come out until 67.
Okay.
So, and I do know, talking to the owners that sold the car to the person that I bought it from, that they had transmission issues. They replaced the transmission and they had all kind of problems of fitment, which I believe primarily was the drive shaft and the bell housing. Because that changed from 66 to 67, the bell housing, and I'm assuming the drive shaft could have changed, but they got that fixed. And you remember when I showed you on the clutch bracket,
yes,
where they had done some welding on it, that kind of coincides to what I was told.
Okay.
Which kind of makes it sound like, yeah, maybe it could be, well, it probably is a hybrid of a couple years.
It's very possible. Let's see. Cooter saying aligning those staple holes really sucked. He's talking about on that seal.
Yeah.
He scuffed a few fingers and cussed a lot for an hour trying to replace his. Back to the rear end ratio. Moorwagon says 308 is a nice one for freeway. The 350 is okay for burnouts. Better on gas than the 373. Depends on your trans and what you're looking for. That's a good point. Cooter says he loves that you kept the inline 6. They're becoming more rare as they are relatively reasonably priced and are used as donors for resto mods. So,
well, actually, I found a website today. It's called Morana 6. Can't read my writing on there.
Well, your screen just went dark.
I think I pushed something.
Okay, there you go.
I'm sorry. But anyway, this company, the guy's name's Tom Morana Racing, and I researched him today because I'm looking into rebuilding this 2003 Ranger.
Right.
And I want to make it into a Screamers also. And so I watched videos on that today. But anyway, he sells performance parts for 3.0, 4.0, and other engines with cams and lifters, roller cams and roller lifters and stuff like that. So I did some research on that. But my plan on this car is ultimately I'm going to machine the block to 0 tolerance, or have it done.
Right.
And then I'm going to, I found a motor. I went and picked it up Thursday that appears to have, I haven't pulled the head off yet, but it came out of a 1970 Falcon. And it looks like it had been rebuilt according to the guy that I got it from. And if that head is good, because I told you we were going to weld the head on the 66.
Right.
We did that, and I got a video on that, and I haven't done anything with it yet. Um, the
Jerry, hold on a
machinist
second. Your screen is still dark. I don't know what happened.
let's see. You're in the show.
I don't know what you bumped.
I don't know what I bumped either because I've punched every button that I've got on this. So anyway, since you can still hear me, what I'll tell you is that he welded it. He did the grinding on it, and he welded it with TIG welder. He did the brazing. We did a pressure test. It had 2 leaks. He ground that out, rebrazed it, did a pressure test. We had 2 leaks. In one place was different than the first 2, or the first one. And then he rebrazed it again, and we had 5 leaks. And so I think this head is trash.
Yeah.
I think I know why we had the problem with the leaks. And I think the leaks were due to the fact that he didn't, and I'm not accusing him of this.
Right.
I mean, he's done a great job. I think based on what I've read and my experience with welding is that he just didn't have the block hot enough when he did the brazing.
Yep.
And then he told me that his brass with the flux on it was 20 years old.
Oh, well, that was pointless then.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking the problem is with a cold head and brass with flux that old, it just didn't flow out.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all.
So anyway, we are where we are, but I've got another head. I'm going to pull that off probably this weekend and have it tested, magnafluxed, and if it works, well, I'll have it machined down, and then I'll go through the process. And the build on the engine is going to be with 0 mil on the block, 65 off the head, and then 110 degree separation on the cam for the lobes on the cam. And based on Clifford Performance in California, they think that engine's going to build about 220 to 240 horsepower, which will be at 240, it'd be double the horsepower from the original.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And so I'm pretty excited about that. That's probably a year down the road, but we'll get it done.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna let you go, Jerry.
Okay.
It was nice having you on here and seeing the updates. Are you still there?
I am.
Okay. Because your screen is dark. I can't see.
Sorry. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, I don't know either. Nick Moss is saying you didn't pay your electric bill.
Well, actually, he's right. I haven't paid my electric bill.
They cut you off, so you're sitting in the dark. Okay. Well, right. I look forward to getting this car and driving it. I want to see more updates on it once you get it. Actually, I'll finish putting it together and have it drivable.
And I'm looking for that too. And I've got some video equipment now, so I'm going to work on videoing. The rollout. Probably the next 3 major things that have to happen, and I'm sure you didn't see everything on the board in terms of line items, but there's 3 things that really have to happen. The other stuff is cosmetic, mostly.
Okay.
I've got to get the new wheels, new tires mounted on the wheels. I've got to get the alignment done and the new exhaust put on it.
Okay.
And once that happens, then it's street legal if I got insurance, and then we can go from there.
Sounds good.
All right, man.
All right.
See ya.
Well, hopefully we get you back on and we have video again, because it's a little awkward hearing a voice with no pictures. So.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I'm not sure what happened, and I don't know what I did, but anyway.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you later.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Bye. Okay. So that comment that Cheryl had made, it was to Shelby on her Mustang. And I don't know if you saw the video on that, Cheryl, but I believe they're painting it back to the original, I think it was lime gold color, is what the plan is. I think they're going to go back to the original look, and they said it had black stripes on it. I don't know what kind of stripes it may have had, but that was the thought. At least what I understood, that was the color they were going to go back with, lime gold. Reese, he says the C4 in his Mustang, or no, let's see. C4 has a 1-to-1 final gear if that helps anyone find out the best rear gear. Thank you for that, Reese. Terry, I don't know if he found any 64.5 parts in it. Don't remember that. Let's see what else we got. Nick Moss says, light a candle, Jerry. I did have an email from Dennis, and I don't know what is happening. He said he had sent me two other emails, but I only got one, at least one showing. So I don't know if he wanted to be on the stream or not, but I sent him an invite. If he does, we'll find out. Yeah, Dennis, if you're hearing this, hope you're still there. But I don't know what happened because I only have one email that showed up. I'll just do a quick search, see if anything else has pulled up. Nope. That's the only email I have. So I don't know what happened, Dennis. But I sent you a link to get on the stream if you want to. Otherwise, as I said earlier, I will have another video coming out this week for sure. It'll be on the rebuilding of the door hinges for the Jade Mustang, the 68. And then, because what I was thinking, I'd mentioned before about doing the fender and working on the fender. And I still want to do that. But I don't want to, as we were talking with Jerry, there's sequence. You don't want to get too far ahead in one area and remember, forget something in the process. So ideally, I want to be able to mount the doors back on the car. But now is the perfect time to take care of the hinges because they're off the car. And that's why I'm doing them. Get them out of the way, and then I can make sure everything's going to line up and fit properly. And then I can also, get the fender off and work on it. I'm actually thinking about maybe, because I know that the Jade Mustang has been in that, sitting in the back paint booth for years now. I was thinking today, when the weather was super nice, I should have fired it up and just pulled it out. Just get it out of the garage, out back there. Let it get some sun. Feel good with some sunshine on it. And then if I do that, I can clean out the paint area a little more. And maybe I'm trying to decide the best approach for doing those fender videos, because I want to have a good access to show the difference in how the fenders fit. And I can do that back there, but it's a little bit tight. So I may just have to put it up here, rearrange a few things, and then put Jade up here and play with those fenders. Because like I said, I know the right front fender was an aftermarket. It has a bunch of issues. And then the fender that I was given is aftermarket. And I know it has some issues, but I think between the two, the one I was given is in better condition than the one I have, or the one that came on the car. And so I may have to take, I don't know, maybe some pieces off of one fender to put on the other fender. I don't know yet. But when I get to that point, we'll find out. The alternative would be that I order a whole new fender, or I find somebody parting out a 68 so I can get another right front fender. But that's kind of the plan right now. Nick, 10-to-1 overall first gear is optimal for a street application for good performance. First trans gear, ring and pinion, and so on. On the top end is another matter altogether. But yeah, all depends. Yes. Very true. How's the Brooklyn Pony coming along? Well, it's kind of just sitting at the moment. I know that I still need to do the, I'm going to be welding shut the cowl vent. And that's one of those things that I've been, I've said this before. There are times where I don't do something because I want to think about it. And when I say I want to think about it, I may not think about it at all, if that makes sense. Because sometimes I take an approach where I look at something and I think, I'm going to do that. And if I don't process that thought, I may do it that way and then realize, oh, I could have done it this way and it would have been better. And I've done that with a lot of things, like the cross member that I built for that car. I had fought with the aftermarket pieces and trying to decide what's a good approach for this. And I would let it stew, basically. One of those things where I think about it by not thinking about it. Subconsciously, you let stuff kind of roll around in the back of your head for a while, and then boom, the idea comes out, and you're like, that's a great answer. So with that in mind, the vents that are going to get welded shut, I need to make plates to fit in those vents. And it's one thing, you could take some cardboard and trace it, trim it, and cut it, and copy it, and that may be the approach that I take anyway. But I was looking at, I have the old top cowl panel off of the original car, and I was thinking about that today. I was like, well, I don't want to do anything that could conflict with the car as it is, but that old panel, I could do whatever I want with it. It's junk. So, just one of those things that I need to kind of roll around in my head for a while and come to a conclusion. Now, beyond that, I need pieces for the brakes, brake pedal, master cylinder. I need the chrome. I need stainless pieces, all that sort of stuff. As it is, I can't and I won't do any paint work until I know everything fits. I just won't. I've got it, epoxy and everything, but until I know that I have the pieces in hand that are going to go on the car to verify fitment, I'm not going to do any paint work to it. And really, there's not much else I can do besides the cowl at this point. So that's why I'm leaning more on jade. I would love to get jade in paint. I think a lot of people would like to see jade in paint. I know I would love to see jade in paint, and that's going to be a huge step. And I think that's going to be a great video series when I get to that point, because I'm going to go probably into more detail painting that car than I have with anything else that I've done. I think that's going to be a very good, kind of series on that. And I've had people ask me today about, detailing how to mask stuff and, different things. But I need to get the simple things done for jade before I can think about actually spraying paint on it. Most of the cars in primer. All thing left to fix is the right front fender, and then the get the left front fender in high build, and then I think I may have to work on a valance panel a little bit, maybe the front valance panel. I think it's in good shape. I don't remember. It's been so long, and I think I've had that car like 7 years now, but maybe longer. But anyway, that's going to be the sequence on doing that. So, Rick, think about it without overthinking it. Yes, that's a good way to look at it. Because I just, and I guess I do this with almost everything that I do. I just don't verbalize it that way. It's because I've had moments of let's say stress of trying to resolve something, and I just forcibly tell myself, just move on, do something else, and just let that rattle around, and eventually the answer comes out. So, Dave, Barry, watch a video on Fitzy's channel for some ideas for the vent patch. He has a very good way to do fills like that. Well, I'll do that. I think I've seen some of his work, but I'll check that out, Dave. Thank you. Otherwise, we're getting close to calling it a night. I don't know if Dave has gotten the email. I didn't get a response back from him, so I don't know what's going on with that. And if he does, fine, we'll get him on. We'll get him on the stream. But if not, well, then we'll just let it go for a little bit. What was the other question I had on here? Clark asked me, he says, why don't you give your old radio away to a listener? Well, I don't really think they'd want it. I don't think they'd want it. What I plan to do is I was talking about this earlier, the stereo in a garage. I have one speaker mounted way up high and another one over here. Well, the speakers are great. So I'm going to probably put a speaker like in all four corners of the shop now that I have matching setup. So like, these are the speakers with a surround setup, whatever up on top. And I think I could probably hook up all four speakers and really have some nice loud sound in here, because I don't hear anything as it normally, so I have to like really turn the radio up when I want to use it. Terry, were you able to fix harmonic balancer water pump? Yes. Yeah, you need to go back and check those videos. That was probably 6 or 7 videos ago on the Brooklyn Pony. When I was doing the test fit for the AC, I did a sequence on that. So have a look at that. Yeah, I was able to resolve that. And that all worked out. I mean, it's tight. It's close. I will say that it's close. But it looks like it's going to clear. And if it doesn't clear, well, then I'll modify more to make it clear. That's just how it has to be. Yeah, let me think what else there was. I think everything is pretty much wrapped up under, on the engine bay area. But again, I need to make sure the master cylinder, booster, pedal, all that stuff is going to fit. And then, there's secondary things that are going to come, wiring, whether it's going to have a, fit tech system or fuel injection system on it, whatever one it shows up. And then, taillights, all that stuff that needs to come with it. Because I still want to verify fitment of the taillights. I don't know that I have any that I can use, but I want to make. There's all these little things that I've talked about with Jerry. You make sure test fit, and boom. If it doesn't fit, then you're in trouble when it comes to paint. Let's see, Dave. Are there any new tools you're dreaming about picking up? That's a good question. I'm always wanting new tools. Nothing really comes to mind at the moment. If I do, it'll probably be something cordless. I'm getting into cordless stuff now, but I don't have anything specifically that I need that I can think of. Although, if you want to get, really, if I had to, I would want to replace that air compressor, get one of those, and then I really would love to put in an air dryer. I really would want an air dryer in the shop, and unfortunately, those aren't cheap. I think Harbor Freight actually sells one, and I've heard good things about them, but again, that's not a cheap investment. So until revenue increases somehow, I'm probably going to be stuck with this air compressor for the moment, and it works. but it's getting tired. I know it's getting tired. And yeah, at some point I need to upgrade the compressor. And I would really love to have one of those dryers. And I would probably have to mount the dryer up on the wall, I think. Try to get it up off the floor. I don't want to waste space on the floor. So I would probably move it up or build a store, like a little outcropping to where I can put the compressor and the dryer outside the shop so that it's much quieter. Word of the day. You know, I don't know. I had a good word earlier, but I don't remember what it was. So I'm going to say the word of the day is boomsy. There's a radio host here in Atlanta. He uses that word occasionally, boomsy. And it's like saying, like, there it is. Got it. You know, boomsy. So for some reason that word struck me today, boomsy. Nick, he has to go to work. Have a good one, bud. We'll see you, Nick. Glad you're here. Terry, do you like to collect antiques? Yeah, probably so. I don't make it a priority, but there are certain things if I get a hold of that are old and have a good story that I can connect to. As an example, I'll show you something. Since you mentioned that, this is an antique. I have two of these. This is an antique that you probably may have never seen, or a lot of people have never seen. And this is a made item. And just to give you an idea, if I can see it on the bottom, this is I believe a 105 howitzer shell. Can't get the light right on it. I think it's 105. Yeah, 105, type 1. And I think the date on it, I mean, it's a World War II item, is 1944. Okay. Now, this is an interesting antique because this belonged to a relative of mine, and this is known as trench art. It's also an ashtray. That's what it was meant for, an ashtray. I have another one, which I think is really cool. Oops. How about that? That is another ashtray, trench art. I believe that's a 50 cal. It's empty. It's an empty bullet. There's nothing in it. Decorative. Primer's already been fired. And if I remember, this one is 1943. So I think these are really cool. These are kind of really cool pieces because they belong to a relative of mine who fought in World War II. And I just keep these here because of that. I love them. So it's not like your everyday antique that you would find like an old whatever. But anyway, that's one of the things random type of things like that. Greg checking in from Australia. Goodmunder, working on an aftercooler for my compressor, fed up with the moisture in my air tools. Yeah, I think I've thought about doing that, the cooler, but I think I'm just going to get the dryer. I think Harbor Freight sells a dryer, and I'll be further ahead if I just, probably buy one rather than try to make one. But I could be wrong. I know other people have made their own. Rick Stevenson, I know you have an old Willys night wheel. You were right. In fact, I was showing that wheel to the friends of mine who had the Mitsubishi Raider. They saw I have a pile of miscellaneous metal junk that needs to be hauled off. I usually like to haul it off once I get a pretty good pile, but I may just have to get rid of it soon. But I'm not that I'm getting rid of the Willys night wheel. But yes, you're correct. I showed them that because they were like, "Well, that tire is really bald," and I said, "Well, look at the wheel." And I said, "That's really old," and I explained that to them. The story, the Willys night, which is long out of production. Clark Clifford, I like buying Russian trench art rifles. Very interesting. I'll bet. I have not looked into that. But yeah, that sounds interesting. I have oddball antique stuff here and there. I think I've shown before. I don't even know where it's at. I have some sort of a, where did I put that thing? It's like well, I don't know where it's at. But it's like a bead separator tool for like a Model T or something. This is something I think is kind of cool. I picked this up at a yard sale. I use it all the time as a weight. And it says 25 pounds Howe, Howe on it. And, my understanding, it would have been some sort of tooling function to where they needed to add weight to, balance something out. And I use that occasionally when I need some weight on a panel or something that I'm working on. I also have some dumbbells over here, but I'll use that as a weight, kind of a neat piece. But there's oddball stuff. Years ago, I did a vlog, where probably one of my favorite antiques, as far as antiques go, is an erector set that I have from 1938 that my dad bought at an auction somewhere, and I used to play with when I was a kid, and I still have it. It's like even that Pepsi sign that is in the back of my shop. Well, Dad bought that at some auction. I got a hold of it. I had it in my bedroom as a kid, hanging on the wall. When I found it in some of his stuff he bought, it was still in the original box. And I opened the box, hung it on the wall, and I kept the box. Not that it matters. The box is all kind of falling apart now. But that's where that Pepsi sign is from. So I've had that Pepsi sign in my possession well over 40 years. Just one of those things. It was never installed. It was never put up on anything. So, and it's a little out of shape. I think the box had gotten hit, but for the most part, it's fine. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night. Glad everybody was here. Terry Baptist says good night. Dave, buddy bought a garage sale cabinet with a stuck lock. He was told it was full of mostly junk. He found it was full of pierced arrow gauges. Wow, that's cool. That's cool. So the 25-pound weight is used for scale calibration. Well, that could be very true. Barry, the weight looks like the weights from a window washing swing stage. I had one where I used to work on my welding table to hold down stuff I was welding. Oh, well, that could be, yeah, okay. I have one more comment here. I've installed a rear taillight panel on a 69, 70, 73. I always have jack up the bottom of the panel to match the rear balance mount. Interesting. Okay. All right. I'm going to call it a night. I'm glad everybody was here. Still 65 people watching, which is really good. I guess you can see that. I don't know. But again, thanks everybody for being here. The questions, having Jerry on, and just, filling up this time. I think it's great everybody shows up and participates. I know there's a lot of people that just listen. That's fine too. That's all good with me. But anyway, that's going to be the end. And I'll be back on Thursday at 3 p.m. for the European people, or anywhere else. It's on the timeline that works better. So that's going to be it. I'll have another video coming out very soon on the door hinges, as I mentioned. And yeah, until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.